It's the Pittsburgh Golf Now Par 4, our first show in a couple of months. I'm Matt Gajtka here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, back in Pittsburgh, PA. Zac Weiss as we toss around four topics to end the year, to end 2021 and look ahead into 2022. Zac, I've been in isolation for about a week and a day, actually, as of today. It took me almost 2 full years, but I came down with COVID. So I guess I can check that off my bingo card here at the end of 2021. That's all you got for me. Just the silent fist bump. I appreciate that.
Good dude.
Nothing really to say, except we're all trying to get through it and move along here. But there were plenty of things that came up in the month of December here that made it worthy for us to get here back together on a Zoom call and chat about it. Number one being the Pnc Championship. Pretty funny how the last 2 times this tournament has been competed, it has put itself on the map. And it's not really a mystery at all as to why. It's because Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods are playing together. And this year, Zac, they've made a run at the championship, finishing second to the Dailies. John Daly, and well, now he doesn't want to go by Little John anymore. He wants to go by John Daly II, which sounds very regal, especially with how that family usually carries itself. But hey, whatever he wants to do is fine by me. And he's a heck of a player trying to make a name for himself in college golf, John II. That is. But honestly, they were looking at the scoreboard and maybe a little bit nervous about seeing 12-year-old Charlie knock down the flagstick coming down the back 9 there in the second day of play. It's wild, Zac. So I almost don't know where to start because we were all thinking, okay, it's going to be about what can Tiger do? How does he look in his first appearance in 8+ months after the car accident that nearly cost him his right leg? And I think in the end, the story ended up being more Charlie. So how did you feel about that? Did you think that it's more about the younger Woods as opposed to the elder Woods, who I guess we're all kind of used to seeing him bounce back from whatever happens in his life?
Well, honestly, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this was our first time collectively as a public seeing Tiger Woods play on any kind of stage. Of course, you've seen a still photo, you've seen a 10-second social media clip, but seeing the physical thing in the flesh is one thing. I think that fans in general have to be careful with tempering their expectations for Tiger. This was a glorified exhibition in the kindest sense of the word. It was very subdued, which is why I think Tiger felt comfortable by and large, or at least as comfortable as he could be given the pain I'm sure he's still feeling. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be excited and encouraged, as they should be, by what he showed, but a lot of shots were stock shots, and he's riding in a cart, and he's understandably not 100%. So even the pros, I think, were getting a little bit of excitement, just not just seeing him, but thinking that he can contend. But he's just not at that stage yet, and he openly admits that. And getting mental reps, getting physical reps on a PGA Tour setting is very different. And for Tiger Woods, who openly admits that his schedule's going to be kind of it's going to be kind of like a greatest hits tour at this point in time. You'll probably see him at Augusta. I would venture you might even see him at a Memorial, courses that historically he's done well. You probably won't see him double up back-to-back weeks just for safety and precaution, unless it might be maybe in a FedEx Cup setting. But I mean, with such a limited schedule and his age, which is getting up there regardless of physical fitness levels, we've seen Phil Mickelson kind of turn the hands of time with the age clock. You've seen Kenny Perry, Vijay Singh do the same, but they don't have as much physical baggage as what Tiger Woods has, unfortunately for him, accomplished over the years. And it's a very big ask. So even if it's a FedEx Cup situation, which doesn't seem the most likely, it's not the most foreseeable conclusion for Tiger Woods, but at this point, just seeing him out there is a victory in every sense of the word. And to see him genuinely enjoying himself on a golf course is something that I think a lot of people don't get to see, because you see that competitor at all times who wants at the end of the day the wins and wants to perform well and peak when it comes time for majors. When you see Charlie's play improving and you see JD and JD2 up there on that leaderboard, you have a 12-year-old competing against a kid that's a college golfer, and they're battling each other shot for shot. I mean, in a sense, you shouldn't really be expecting that, but in a sense, he's a Woods. You almost have to expect the darn thing. But, I mean, it's really, really good to see JD2's process and his approach to the game. A lot of it was him saving his dad's behind, especially in that first round. I mean, he was magic with the flat stick. I liked his mental approach on the golf course. And the good thing about seeing these events is you're seeing his mental maturity through the years. I think he was kind of that fun loving guy, which dailies naturally are. But you see a lot of, when you see him going to college, you see that maturity. You see the genuine want to succeed at the next level of golf. And he's putting himself in the position to do that. For Charlie, I think you're seeing a lot of interesting shot making and a lot of similarities to his dad, demeanor wise, on the course. You already see the needling and the comfort level with the Thomases, which you get to see on a daily basis, which makes it fun too. And that's not something you get to see all the time. When Justin Thomas was not chowing down on kids' chicken tenders, there was Charlie Woods kind of going at it and needling him, and Tiger is a notorious needler. So that's what I think of with this event, the homely nature of the whole thing. Getting to see a lot of people getting to see Nelly Korda for the first time, which I think is sincerely an important thing. Does this mean she's following in the footsteps of Annika Sorenstam or Michelle Wee West? No, I don't think we're there yet. But what she was able to do and the grace which she handled herself, and you saw how she was able to pose for a picture with Tiger Woods, and it was second nature. She was a fan just like all of us, and a lot of us got to become fans of her game as well. And I think it's an important stage for her to do that, and for her to have her dad there makes it even more enjoyable. And that's the whole nature of this event, and that's why it's so competitive. It was almost on social media, you saw some whining because you saw golfers that wanted to be in the field with their son or their significant other or whatever the case may be, and they just didn't quite make the cut. So it's competitive just get invited into the field, and that's really what it's about. It's fun for everybody. There's no real pressure, and to see some leaderboard watching between two very, very awesome teams in their own rights on their own merits was very fun. So a lot of takeaways. I think naturally the takeaway will be Tiger and Charlie, and understandably so given the scope of what Tiger has done for this game and will continue to do for this game. But there are a lot of other storylines as well.
Well, you and I discussed this earlier this year about how we'd love to see more variety on the PGA Tour. This is not a real PGA Tour event, but this is the sort of thing that I think can spice up golf and make things more interesting and add something for the casual fan. And heck, we're both avid golf fans, as avid as you can get, I would imagine. And we were engrossed in it just as much as I think whoever might be scanning around the dial looking for something to watch during what might be called the dog days of sports there, the middle of December. I know there were some NFL games going on, but outside of that, there might not have been a lot going on the TV. And when it comes to sports, I suppose you can be a little bit voyeuristic when it comes to watching golf this time of the year too, because I know coming up at Kapalua and at Waialae Country Club as well, the little Hawaii swing 2 weeks for the PGA Tour, that's always an aspirational watch for me when it's in the early stages of January. So there's also that aspect to it. But yeah, I think you're right. Tiger's still number one, even though what we saw from Charlie was extremely impressive. And like you said, great to see Nelly Korda get some time on the stage here. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But as far as Tiger's concerned, for me, a couple of takeaways. Number one, the golf swing still looked pretty good. Didn't look the same. He wasn't pivoting through the ball as much as we're used to seeing with the lower body, but that's to be expected. He wasn't getting that push off the backside. But at the same time, I feel like if the injury was to the left leg, we might not be seeing Tiger back because he'd have to press into that leg. And he's had some issues with that left knee in the past as well. So I suppose if you had to pick one leg to have a near catastrophic injury on, I know that sounds weird, but you'd probably pick the trail leg there. And I think you're going to see some strength pick up there. And I think it may not ever look quite the same as it was looking in 2018 and 2019, when I thought his swing was as sweet as it's ever been. But as we saw, he added some LBs up top. He's been lifting some weights. He looks a little bit stronger in the upper body. And I think that maybe compensated for the lack of pivot that we saw at the PNC. But at the same time, I think that any talk that he's going to take several months off here before he comes back to the PGA Tour, I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Tiger's going to feel encouraged by his performance in an exhibition, but on national television and with the juices flowing, he definitely hit some golf shots, and he looked a lot like the late stage Tiger that we've seen and we've enjoyed in the last several years. So I'm not saying he's going to be back and play Genesis, which he hosts at LA Country Club, or Riviera, I mean, or if he's going to be back for the Players. I'm not quite sure about that. I do think, bottom line, we're going to see him for the Masters. And I think we do see him, obviously, for all 4 majors if he stays healthy. And Zach, I know that he said he's going to play a more, quote, limited schedule, modeling himself after late career Ben Hogan, but he was already playing like 8 tournaments a year. I'm not sure it can be that much more limited if he wants to play majors plus maybe, like you said, Memorial or something like that. So that wasn't really news to me. What was news to me was just seeing him out there and seeing him look, I'd say, okay for his standards, and even getting the ball speed up there, better than a lot of players, better than Colin Morikawa, a current 2-time major winner on the PGA Tour. So a lot of encouraging things there. And as far as Tiger's concerned, I think we're going to see him in the big events in 2022. That's what we needed to see, that little litmus test, and we saw it.
Absolutely, and I think that's an important thing to discuss. I mean, I think that, when Tiger was competitive, maybe in 19, you saw kind of a little bit more of a ramped up schedule. Naturally, with his finish, I forget if he qualified for the Tour Championship, but figure you got the majors, figure you have Memorial, probably I'd have to look up his events. It seems like it decreased by the year, but even more so, the thing is that for this, you can't, for people that want to grade, because people like to be grading, people like to be reactionary to things, there's no grade for this thing. The grade is that we're just so damn lucky to see Tiger Woods on a golf course in any capacity at this point in time. And just, it's fortunate for me, for you, for people that really truly appreciate this sport to have a chance to watch a master at work once again. No, it's not the same. It's not the same swing. It may never be the same swing just because of the amount of torque and pain that his body felt. And not just with that accident, but over the years. He's had to change his swing numerous times, and it wasn't just because of a coaching change. It's just because there's been so much wear and tear. Some of it self-inflicted, but a lot of it just, over the years, things happen. And surgeries have happened historically. Obviously, the accident happened. Things happened at the turn of the 2000s and 2010s that obviously made a lot of headlines in tabloids. And it's been a very tumultuous career, and there's what's made him succeed has also, and you could arguably say, has made him fail and shown him to be have more of a humility version and be more humble. So it's been an interesting juxtaposition to define the career of Tiger Woods, and there's still some chapter to be written, and I still wouldn't write him off for winning another major, honestly. Depending on how things go, you never know. Augusta can play to pretty much anybody, and there isn't anybody that really knows that course better than El Tigre. So, never sell Tiger short. I easily could see him winning another major, although I'm sure this will be on at freezing cold takes in about 5 years' time. So there you go.
I don't know about that. There's also St. Andrews, too, coming up this year, a course that sets up pretty well for a guy who maybe can't quite with the big boys, but
too soon.
That's a nuanced type of course, St. Andrews. And so I have a feeling that he's going to be right there as well. But as many years as he plays the Masters, Zach, until he's maybe 60, he's probably going to have a chance to win that just based on the course knowledge and how that track tends to reward experience. All right, we touched on Charlie. Let's go to shot number 2. Charlie Woods did not speak with the media at all. Tiger still remains quite protective of him. For instance, we heard more from Henrik Stensson's son, Carl, a lot more from Carl than we heard from Charlie over that PNC Championship weekend. I get the approach. I think Tiger senses that for how well Charlie is performing, especially, he's going to be sought after, and the request may not stop if he grants one of them. So I understand that. But also from a journalistic standpoint, Zach, I wonder how long that they can keep this up, I suppose. Until he's 18, right? If he doesn't want to talk, he doesn't have to, or forever if he doesn't end up pursuing top-level golf as a career. But let's assume he does. At some point, we're going to hear from Charlie about what he's thought of all this, what he thinks of his dad. And I don't really have a problem with the saturation coverage of Charlie Woods. It's an unbelievable story, the greatest golfer of all time in many people's views, producing a son and raising a son who looks like he has quite a bit of potential. So that's going to happen. Tiger being who he is, when his family's in public and especially performing alongside with him in golf, you're just going to have that attention. And for me, it's newsworthy. You don't pry into Charlie's personal life off the course, obviously, but as long as Tiger's putting him out there and comfortable putting him out there, I don't have an issue with whatever level of coverage that that these outlets want to provide, assuming it's limited to what's on the course. So what are your feelings on that? We've never really talked about that.
It's a very slippery slope. I think so much across athletics in a broad stroke, you're seeing these high school students and these parents are parading these high school students like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they're promoting their sons or daughters or adopted sons or daughters or close relatives on social media. They're anybody that is willing to listen, they'll talk your ear off about it. And to have it so early in these individuals' lives, many of whom will not make it to the next level, and an even bigger majority than that beyond that will not make it to the professional level. It's a very difficult thing as a student athlete to be put through that. So picture Charlie at age 12. We're 6 years away from that. And we're already having this discussion. And naturally, fan, journalist, enjoyer of the sport, it's something where there's a natural level of curiosity. And it's very understandable why. And you listed the reasons why, so I'm not going to say them again. But the thing that makes it interesting is that you see that he is loose on the golf course. At this point, how I would handle it, it's almost like that permission slip for the field trip. If Charlie wants to talk and Tiger feels comfortable, then he should talk. Now, whether that means you're limiting media, credentialed media to established outlets that cover the tour, whether that's your APs, your ESPNs, and your standards, that you know that at least there's some kind of relationship there where there might be a little bit more care put in the situation. In my personal opinion, if I'm Tiger Woods, unless Charlie is in a USGA or otherwise equally sponsored event where there's not a requirement to talk to the media, I would protect him until he's 18. I think that he needs to enjoy golf for what it is and find his level of enjoyment and comfort along that process. And if he says, Dad, okay, I've got this, then that's something else, and I completely understand that. But if I'm Tiger, I hold on for dear life. I mean, how many times have you seen young celebrities that have grown up that were thrust into the limelight because their parents put them there? And Tiger understands that more than anybody with his dad. I mean, what? He was 3 years old when he was on television.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anybody understands the early aspect of putting themselves out there, it's Tiger Woods. And I think he understands that in a sense, he's a cautionary tale. And anywhere he goes now, he's viewed under a microscope. And I don't think he wants that for his son. And there has to be that understanding, and there has to be that line. And I think as a media person, it's tough to understand that line. Lines are blurred now more than they ever have before. And some people will interpret that line one way, while others will look at the line completely in another set of eyes. So, is there a right answer? No. Is there a wrong answer? No. I think the right answer is between the two people that are making the decision, and then communicated through Tiger's PR team, and then communicated through whomever the decision makers are, whether that's the USGA, whether that's the John Jingleheimer Schmidt community course pro-am, and he's in it. And, I mean, it's a discussion that needs to be had at all levels, and I think that it's a decision that Tiger at this point is the one that is making, and I think it's done to protect his son. And I for me personally, I want Charlie happy. And if that means that he's enjoying the game and just not talking to media, I respect that. I totally get it. Would I be curious to talk to him? Absolutely. But the kid's 12. I mean, how many people at age 12 are going to say more than one complete sentence, especially after having been on a golf course and having that adrenaline trip for 4+ hours? It's a big ask, and I think Charlie's discovering himself, He's still very much discovering his game. And for right now, what we saw on the course, that's more than gold than anything he can say right now. The kid's having fun. The kid's clearly finding some comfort with his dad out there and with his golf game. And that's the most important thing right now. I hope that whatever decision Tiger makes, that all media respects it, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. Relationships are a two-way street. We both understand that, both of us having served in journalism and PR roles in varying degrees. And I think that this whole thing is a dance, and it's a very delicate one. And nobody really understands the position because they're not the son of an 82-time PGA Tour winner, et cetera, et cetera. Credits due beyond that. So it's tough. There's so many things to consider, and I think Tiger kind of taking the reins and making that decision right now in the best interest of Charlie is the way to go, at least for now.
Well, speaking of exposure, we mentioned Nelly Korda got some at the PNC Championship playing with her dad and former Grand Slam tennis champion Peter Korda. The Kordas, Jessica and Nelly, both on the LPGA Tour. They're first-generation Americans, in case you were wondering. Peter from the Czech Republic. And yeah, things going pretty well for the family. Their brother Seb is also a top 50 ATP tennis player. So yeah, the athletic genes run pretty strong in that family. And as we saw from Nelly this past year, she appears to be on the rise. And so it's good to see her get a little bit more time in front of the camera, even though it's in a hit and giggle type of event, to use the term that Tiger used when describing the PNC Championship before he went ahead and played in it. Korda, of course, also was a viral hit, and you talked about this, Zach, and getting Tiger Woods's picture. And it's kind of funny to me to think about the fact that two of the top players in the world had never met before. But I guess when would Nelly have ever crossed paths with Tiger? It's not like tennis, where the Grand Slam events and some other high-level events include both men and women at the same site. Golf, obviously, different in that way. So it was very relatable to see Nelly, I guess, fangirl out, if you will, in that spot. But I'm looking forward to bigger and better things from her. And this does feel like a moment for women's golf to be led by a telegenic star, one that has come through, who wins her first major this past year, who wins an Olympic gold. Speaking of getting your face in front of unfamiliar audiences, that helps as well when you do anything in the Olympics in a sport that typically isn't associated with the Olympic Games. That's a big bonus there too. So my question for you is, what's the next step for Nelly? Is it just more winning, or is it finding herself in more situations in pop culture where she can raise the profile of women's golf? Because I think there's a chance here, and I think there's more opportunity than ever right now with streaming platforms being what they are, and with, I think, women's sports in general having some great upward and positive momentum. I feel like 2022 could be a really big year for women's golf, and I think Nelly is at the forefront of that. Am I wrong to put that much pressure on her, though? Because obviously, when you have someone who's dominant in an individual sport, they can help be that rising tide that lifts all boats. We saw it with Tiger. We've seen it in tennis, to name a sport I just talked about too, with Federer and Djokovic and Nadal on the men's side, Serena and Venus on the women's side. Is Nelly that kind of person, and what could she do maybe to help lift the LPGA and women's golf in general?
Not to put any more pressure than you've already put on her, but we're
I'm
going
good
to
at
find
that.
out. We're going to find out how much she's able to rise to the occasion within this next 12 to 18 months, in my personal opinion. The first step, of course, is staying healthy, which in golf is easier said than done in so many ways. I mean, how many times do you get a runner's, an elbow cramp or something happening where maybe, or even a bad swing thought that mentally messes with you? And at the professional level, that's the difference between a top 10 and a missed cut on a consistent basis. And then when that spinballs into something, then it becomes an even bigger mess. So personally, this was an important week. That was an important weekend for Nelly Korda. Just seeing her carrying herself with grace and introducing herself to, as I said earlier on the first shot, an audience that probably by and large has not seen her hit a golf shot in her career. And for her to have her dad by her side to comfort, and for her to be able to handle the moments with grace and elegance are important. Right now, like you said, women's sports are in a very, very nice position where there is an ability to be marketable and to be grown. And I think that there was a lot of ignorance on a personal note to where that was not a possibility before at the professional level for a lot of female athletes. The last time American golf had a female that had an opportunity to rise to the occasion was probably Lexi Thompson. And Lexi won her major, but has kind of been a bridesmaid, has had the game, but just hasn't consistently gotten it done. I think you saw when Michelle Wee West tapered off a little bit. You saw Lexi take over. At this point, it can't be okay. 2 years, here comes the next person. There needs to be that dominant person. And now you see in college athletics the NILs. The marketability is off the chart in so many sports and so many female athletes, even at the local level, and you see at the national level, a couple of members of the UConn women's basketball team are getting legitimate sponsorships. Gatorade with Paige Beckers, for example, that's a huge one. And to see she's the first female athlete representing one of the NILs on a national level, that's huge. And I think Nelly has that capability of doing similar things on the women's game. I think marketably, she hasn't said anything controversial by and large, and she has a lot of games. She's got that competitive streak, but it hasn't gotten her in trouble. That makes her very, very marketable and very, very desirable, and that can take her far. Where even if she, I don't know, doesn't have the results that she's looking for, she still has that in her back pocket to make herself and make this sport marketable. The LPGA Tour is in a very interesting position where there was a commissioner change within the last season, and now the LPGA has been put into a fantastic position, probably better, more advantageous, especially on the American side, than probably ever before. So now with this commissioner change, and now with Nelly Korda kind of transitioning, it'll be interesting to see how that Venn diagram meets in the middle so that there can be enough equity at the table for everybody, and so there can be some successes on both sides. And it's pivotal. It's pivotal for the women's game of golf. It's pivotal for the young girls that are watching on television that are wondering when there's going to be equity and wonder when there's going to be that opportunity. And Nelly Korda could very easily become a trailblazer towards that. And that is very important. And if that is her legacy, then she'll be one of the most influential athletes just because there finally seems to be some equality going on. And when you look at today's athlete, that is very, very important. You see female empowerment, and not just in sports, coming on the rise. And it's very important that in that time where it seems like people are more aware, that maybe the game of women's golf matches that. And that is where it becomes important. And that could be, again, not to put pressure on Nelly Korda, this could be Nelly's opportunity to find success on the golf course, but also prove that there's more to the success than golf, and that she can be that two-way marketable star where, yes, she wins majors, but she also can get it done off the course where she can find that success. And that's going to become very important. And if she can succeed in both of those, it'll be like the Williams sisters. I mean, that would probably be the best, most recent comparable in female sports right now, in women's sports. And to have a Serena or Venus in the sport of women's golf would be huge, especially now.
And as far as I'm concerned, there's no real playbook for that sort of thing as far as taking exposure to the next level pop culturally. It's different. Everyone is different, and every situation is different. Now the scope of, I guess, media in general changes by the month, it seems like these days. But hey, she has a big game. I think she has a great personality, and I think that if she continues on this path, I think we're going to see her raise the tide here, and I hope that is the case for sure. All right, topic number 4, Zach, and hey, as we talk about trying to capture media attention and how to, I guess, harness it and in some ways quantify it. Well, the PGA Tour tried to quantify buzz this year with its Player Impact Program, the PIP, the PIP, a fund of many, many monies, many millions of dollars that is being siphoned to the top 10 PGA Tour players on the PIP scale. And if you're wondering what that even is, what's the formula? No one knows what the formula is in real life. It's a PGA Tour creation, and it's apparently proprietary because they're keeping it under lock and key. At any rate, Phil Mickelson appears to have spilled the beans. He is the winner, I guess we could call him, of the first PIP sweepstakes. The top 10, like I said, get money. I think Phil gets $4 million, I want to say, for being at the top of the heap in however they're measuring buzz and notoriety, I suppose might be the best way to put it there if you're looking for a true Webster's definition of it. Apparently, according to Daniel Rappaport of Golf Digest, Phil was correct in saying that he did win it. He's accurate. He's known to embellish once in a while. And Tiger Woods was number 2, even though he didn't tee up in a single event in 2021. So that tells you kind of what we're dealing with here. There was rumor that Brooks Koepka was going after some PIP clout with a lot of the stuff he was doing, trying to stir the pot with Bryson DeChambeau. They went at it in the match, of course, on Turner Sports over the Thanksgiving holiday. But it didn't work out in a win, at least for Brooks. And maybe we'll find out from Rappaport or somebody else who ended up 3 and 4 and 5. Apparently, Colin Morikawa was just outside the top 10. So I guess he'll have to polish up those 2 major championship trophies he has. And I think he'll be okay with that. Zach, what about the PIP? I understand what they're getting at. And I will say that I think the top earners in golf deserve more of the pie because they have helped raise the prize money for all players on tour. Number one example of that is Tiger Woods. The guy you could argue he's been underpaid for his influence on golf and how much he's helped other guys and helped the industry in general. But at the same time, it has the feeling of rich get richer. And as several people tweeted at Phil Mickelson, are you going to donate that, or do you really need that extra couple $1 million in the bank account? What are you going to do with that? Of course, it's none of our business what they end up doing with it, but it does feel a little bit like overkill in that way. And that's leaving aside the fact that it could all just be totally made up by the PGA Tour office here down in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. So it's a very strange thing, this PIP, and I'm not sure if I'd call it a success or what it's supposed to do outside of try to keep the PGA Tour's top guns happy and not wanting to leave for a rogue tour set up by Saudi Arabian money, for instance.
This whole thing is expletive stupid. I'm sorry. It's awful. I mean, no one feels. You're expecting in Major League Baseball, you see millionaires fighting against billionaires, and you're expecting to feel sympathy for the millionaires. What about the people that are struggling every damn day to get by? There's no sympathy whatsoever. So you expect me to go with BCS 2.0 over here, the Krabby Patty secret formula? I mean, what? It makes no sense. I'm trying my darndest not to swear right now. I mean, the whole thing just reeks. Just reeks. I mean, these guys don't need the money. If you really want to make it a popularity contest, charity of their choosing, donate the money. And then you have the charities get in on social media as well, and it raises awareness both ways around, and it results in more money going out to the charity aspect. For me, that's the only way that this makes sense. Otherwise, you're doing a social media war where you don't know if any perceived beef is for quote unquote clout or for actual argument. There's no reason. And I mean, Phil being number 1, okay, because he's got an amazing social media. I mean, do we really need to know that Phil and Tiger were 1 and 2 again? I mean, they've been 1 and 2 their whole gosh darn life. I mean, what difference does it make whether it's a golf leaderboard or whether it's this whatever PIP? I mean, I sound like I'm probably 80 years old on an Andy Rooney soapbox right now, but I mean,
a little bit. It's okay though.
It doesn't matter because the whole thing is ridiculous. And I think people that are trying to get extra money, that are fighting to get their tour cards, are SOL because of PIP. I mean, this whole thing is thank you. This whole thing is just ridiculous. And I mean, when we discuss behind the actor's studio, when we discuss this being the 4th shot, well, when Matt discussed this being the 4th shot, so anyways,
You didn't like it.
Oh, I hate it.
It makes for good content, though. That's why.
No, I'm sure it does. I'm sure there's so many quotes right now, and listicles. But I mean, as it is, I mean, are these guys being underpaid? No, that's what sponsorships are for. They have great social media. They've done great on the course. They have so many damn sponsorships. I mean, give the money to maybe someone on the Corn Ferry Tour, maybe give it to a caddy, maybe give it to the charity. I think the charity angle would be the best thing. Then you have more sponsorships, and maybe when there's a tour stop that can't happen, maybe one of those charity spots they all lump together and say, "Hey, we'll pitch in. Look, you guys have given us a good relationship. Maybe we'll pitch back in." I think there's ways to tweak this, but because this is as much of an ambiguous judge, jury, and executioner as Roger Goodell in an NFL appeal, I mean, you can't really get behind it because you don't know what the hell you're getting behind. I mean, at least if there's some clarity, maybe I can get a little bit more behind it. But for now, I mean, it's guys that you would expect to be top 10 in popularity, top 10 in popularity. I mean, is the whole list, is the top 10 out at least, or no?
I haven't seen top 10. I saw, like I said, Morikawa was 11, Tiger was 2,
So
Phil was 1, but I'm sure it'll
Spieth,
come out
maybe
because it
Thomas,
seems like there are
Fowler.
leaks aplenty.
I mean, Spieth, Thomas, Fowler are probably guys that are probably close to it. I mean,
Yeah.
but then you're going to say, okay, well, where's the European flavor? Is it because a lot of the European golfers haven't found success on the other side? I mean, name a golfer off the top of your head immediately, other than Rory McIlroy, that might be top 10 on that list. I mean, maybe Stenson for his Twitter game and his dry humor, but I mean, necessarily hasn't fit the qualifications, hasn't gotten it necessarily done in America on the golf course recently. So, I mean, the whole thing just doesn't make enough sense to me. I mean, okay, John Rahm is probably possibly top 10 as well, especially given the frustration with his COVID tests and the fact that he was able to tune out the noise and win a major would possibly qualify. But I mean, I've spoken way too damn long about this, about 3 freaking letters that are so damn ambiguous. I'm just going to stop talking.
All right. So what I said about it being a total mystery as far as what the PIP is exactly, it's a combination of things. The tour did say it was a combination of Google searches, what are called meltwater mentions, tracks how often a player is mentioned across global media, that's traditional media and social media, MVP index, measure of a player's reach on social media, Nielsen score, how often a player is featured on the TV broadcast, and Q score, which is done by an independent entity. But you're right, Zach, it's a total mess, and they don't say exactly how it's weighted. They don't say how the points are tabulated. It's a little bit like whose line is it anyway. And they almost seem embarrassed by this because of that. They don't reveal everything about it. It's not been publicly announced. It has to be leaked out from PGA Tour HQ or by Phil Mickelson himself. So they're not exactly making a big deal out of this. Like I said, right at the end of my opening soliloquy on this matter is that for me, it's about trying to keep the top players from saying that, oh, the PGA Tour doesn't appreciate us, and we might be able to go overseas with some of these road tours that are popping up. So it's a pretty transparent effort to kick a little bit more money to the types of players that would be attractive to these new tours or new events that might be popping up in the next couple of years. It looks like there could be some upheaval in global golf, and we could be seeing a bit of a sea change in what exactly is out there beyond the majors as far as the top players are concerned when you look at big payouts and prestige. Well, some of these events may fill that gap, and I'm not sure if they handed out $1 billion in PIP money, if that would really make a difference in all that. So Zach, you let your opinion be known. Yeah, my opinion,
I got 2 more points.
it's not quite as strong as yours, but I think it's a little goofy. But at this time of the year, it is called the silly season for a reason. So I didn't want to bring that up. And hey, it's Phil's fault. He brought it up right before we went on the air with this one.
Well, there's still 2 more points. The first of all was the
2
first
more? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, the first qualification was you mentioned the broadcast thing. Well,
Yeah.
the broadcast is skewed to begin with because the broadcasts primarily show the same 5 guys regardless of where they're at in the standings, with token shots of the leader until the weekend comes in. So already those are golfers that have lost serious PIP points.
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling in a way, right?
Second of all, we talk about stopping players from coming to the tour. Well, then what about what happened earlier in this past month, where several of those top golfers they're trying to prevent from going overseas are going overseas anyways, with the PGA Tour acquiescing under the condition that they come back to play one of the tour events that are missed in the couple of years. So regardless, I mean, that kind of contradicts the whole point of PIP as well. So, I mean, for me, I think PGA Tour is embarrassed by it because they haven't loosened those qualifications, and they're kind of talking out both ends. So, I mean, right now, the PIP, it's a mess. If they want to fix it, they need to be more open with it. They need to have more considerations attached to it, and they need to be more inclusive surrounding it. Otherwise, maybe the first 5 minutes were a total waste because we didn't get the whole Krabby Patty secret formula. But beyond that, I mean, I think the whole thing's a waste of time anyway. So, I mean, it's par for the course.
I just know that Zac Weiss is always number one in my player impact program. Thank you, Zac.
Grayson Murray's number one for me.
Okay, wow. Well, thanks for
No,
being
just
such a
kidding.
loyal co-host for the par four for this past year. We're looking forward to more in 2022. We're also looking for more suggestions from you. Obviously, I'm no longer living in Pittsburgh, so we need some more help with Pittsburgh Golf Now, not just boots on the ground, although that would be nice. If you are interested in chipping in and chiming in on the Pittsburgh scene, Western PA, we're open to that. But we're also open to ideas in general. So Zac and I are throwing that out there as well here on this final week of 2021. Zac, any closing remarks before we say goodbye?
No, I mean, primarily just we seriously appreciate any and all input, positive, negative, constructive, willing to physically help. I mean, a lot of what we do is fun, but in order to do what we do, we need your help as well. It's the participation aspect. It's a two-way street. So even if it's just playing around and talking about things, or even just if there's a golf course you feel that we're missing, that maybe we need to play and build those connections on, we're more than game to do that. And most importantly, beyond all that, just hopefully everybody has a happy, healthy, safe new year. I know, not getting too controversial here, that things have obviously gotten a little bit tough, especially on the mental side this last little bit of time. So hopefully everybody's keeping things simple together and finding success and happiness in whatever they're doing. And here's hoping that everybody has a happy, healthy, and safe 2022 from the entire Pittsburgh Golf Now and Pittsburgh Sports Now families.
Yeah, I see your hat there, rocking the PSN swag. I love it.
Yes.
You can find Zac across the PSN network, by the way. It is college basketball season, so
it is.
He's covering Duquesne in general, too. Yeah, I saw soccer.
I am. I mean, there's been so many darn cancellations, unfortunately, that, I mean, yesterday's pit game at the time of this recording was the first game I did in 3 weeks.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was,
yeah, like you said, it's getting off out there, but well said in terms of all that, because hey, I've experienced it personally here. Like I held out for a couple of years, but the COVID bug got me too, and postponed a trip home, hoping to make it as soon as my isolation period comes to an end. In the meantime, you've got golf to think about and well, golf to watch soon, as the tours will kick it back into gear here as January gets going. Thanks again for all your patronage of Pittsburgh Golf Now, for your viewership, for your clicks, and for your ideas, like we said ahead of time. Looking for a lot more of those as we move into 2022. For Zac Weiss, this is Matt Gajtka. This has been the PGN Par 4, and we'll talk to you in the new year. Bye-bye.